Andrew, how are you?
Good, Pete. How are you?
Good. We're going to start a new adventure on the Just Hit Play network. That's what we're calling it now because we're going to do a second show on Just Hit Play. So we're calling it the Just Hit Play network. So we're both big U2 fans, and you can say that our friendship probably started because of U2. Because if I'm not mistaken, when you first met me, you kind of thought I was an asshole.
Well, you were a lot younger than me. Not so much now, but when you're a teenager, 2 or 3
Yeah.
years younger than you, they're like a kid, right? So if
Yeah.
I remember correctly, I was 18. Oh no, I must have been 19,
You
20
were
when
19.
we met.
Yeah. And I would have been 18, I think, when we met. So yeah, there was a little
Right.
bit of an age difference.
Mm-hmm.
And we sort of cemented our friendship because we both found out that we were big U2 fans, and that's how we started hanging out.
Correct. We were in a co-op program through school. You were in
Yeah,
at a newspaper in Mississauga. You were in the photography department. I was in the
that's right.
newsroom, and
Yeah,
all downhill from there.
all downhill from there. So I was thinking we had a great chat when we were talking about the show you saw, the U2 Sphere, and I had a great chat with you talking about all things U2, and then dawned on me, why don't we do a show where we just go through the U2 discography. We'll go from U2 3, which was their first EP, to whatever shit they're putting out now. And I'm guessing while we're recording, there'll be a new song out, or they'll be on some kind of shit soundtrack at some point. So we'll just go from the beginning till wherever it is now.
Sounds good. Now, I do have some questions for you before we start.
Yeah,
Or I guess we have started. So
that's all
I
right.
do have some of these you've probably answered over the years.
Yeah.
But our friendship's been a long time, right? I'm not going to divulge our age at the moment. But,
Yeah.
would you say U2 is your favorite band?
Yeah. Like, if I really got into U2 when I was 13 when Joshua Tree came out. So if you would have told me at 13 that in my 50s I'd be doing a podcast about U2, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense.
Now,
Yeah.
you got into them through your brothers, right?
Yeah. So originally, my older brother Joe would have listened to like the War album. So that was my first memory of U2, was listening to the War album. What was your first memory?
Yeah. So my first memory of hearing a U2 song would have been Pride in the Name of Love. It would have been on a
Right.
mixed tape that I
Yeah.
bought at a Kmart when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So that probably would have been like, greatest hits of 1984,
Exactly.
1985.
Yeah.
That's the first time I heard of U2. The time that I really stood up and took notice is I was in a math detention when I was about 15.
Yeah.
And the guy beside me was wearing U2 shirts every time, he'd come into detention with me. And that was Patty. I don't know where Patty
Oh
is
yeah.
nowadays, but yeah,
Yeah, I remember
he was a
Patty. Yeah.
huge U2 fan. He had older brothers and sisters that listened to college radio. I didn't. I was the oldest in my family and listened to my
Yeah.
parents' music. So he was listening to all this cool college rock. I guess that's what they called it back then.
Yeah.
And, and that's sort of where I started really getting into U2 was hanging out with him.
Right. Yeah, no, I had the luxury of having two older brothers, so I got into like Supertramp, AC/DC, Led Zeppelin. Like I was listening to that when I was like single digits. I remember
Right.
5, 6 years old, I was listening to Hotel California by the Eagles. Like I had two older brothers, and they were not significantly older than me, but 10 and 8 years older than me. So when you're a kid, that is a lot older. So I just listened to whatever they were listening to. So I was introduced to music like that pretty young.
Right. Now, what would you say? Do you remember the first U2 record you would have bought with your own money?
Yeah, it would have been the Joshua Tree,
Right.
and I'll tell that specific story when we listen to the
Okay.
Joshua Tree. But I remember it very specifically, the situation where I bought the Joshua Tree.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, before we get into too much, we're going to release this show every Wednesday going forward until we run out of U2 things to talk about, and maybe we'll visit another band and go through their discography as we go. So keep up with us, and if you're a big U2 fan, we both know a lot about U2, so we're going to be dropping some little pearls of wisdom and reasons why we might hate U2 now. Who knows? So stay tuned for this show every Wednesday.
Well, I am definitely a lapsed U2 fan.
I'm bringing you back.
And as we get on into this thing, it's going to be a little challenging for me.
Yeah, I'm bringing you back to Jesus, my friend.
All right, let's do this.
All right, so every Wednesday, listen to the U2 show on Just Hit Play Network.